Yellow. So pretty. Is this what you want? Is this what you're trying to do in this game? You just want to headshot captains 5 times and then they die? Oh, yeah, that's right. That's exactly what I want, and probably what you want as well. So stick around, because in today's video I am going to cover my cryotoxic techno build. It's an absolutely badass build. I'm going to discuss the gear you should keep an eye out for, the weaponry you should be using, as well as the pros and cons of this build. Before we dive right into it, it's important to note that the Technomancer has some serious options when it comes to speccing and building this character out, so you should let me know if you found a build, especially if it's different than this one, and you're just beating ass with it. I'm always curious to see what the internet can come up with. That's what the comment section's for, baby. We have access to 4 skills for every character in this demo. So the 3 skills we will be utilizing on this Technomancer build are Blighted Rounds, Cryo Turret, and Pain Launcher, aka Packet Rackets. For the weaponry on this character, you want to be utilizing either an LMG or a double gun, and a bolt action rifle or a standard rifle. Now, I did recently receive my first 2 legendaries. I couldn't believe it. I finally did it. One was the bolt action and one was the standard rifle. Double sneeze, baby. Technomancer receives a 15% damage bonus to long range weaponry, and you bet your sweet ass that applies to both types of snipers. This build absolutely does not require the added bonus and benefits of finding legendary gear. If you are a regular loser and you haven't found It's funny that I like to make fun now that I found these. It only took me like 40 hours of grinding. But if you're just a regular person who had my luck for the first 2 weeks, meaning no legendaries, I would recommend using blue sniper rifles, which have a plus critical damage modifier. That's going to be your best friend. This build is definitely going to focus on critical damage. And for your light machine gun or double gun, I would recommend something that has plus critical damage or plus life leech. And for the modifier, you want either toxic, cryo, or slow. The way this build works is you are going to have chip damage in the form of toxic from your blighted rounds, as well as modifiers from your gun. And you also want to be having more cryo and slow, because cryo and slow equals easier headshots and more melt, especially for captain. For gear, there are 2 pieces of equipment that are absolutely non-negotiable. The first bonus you need is adding an additional blighted round toxic magazine before cooldown. That's right, that's another just 100% buff. You get a second magazine of toxic before it cools down. And the second thing that you absolutely need is going to be 30% extra critical damage during toxic round hits. So you got a toxic clip loaded, you're doing 30% extra critical damage. You can see the synergy starting to develop here with your sniper rifles with the plus critical base damage and plus critical toxic damage. The next gear modifier you need is adding cryo damage to your pain launcher rockets. This is of the utmost importance for dealing with captains. It does great damage on its own, as well as adding another source of potential freeze with your cryo turret to captains. This is going to give you the ability, especially if you do it fast enough before they develop resistances, this is going to give you an opportunity to keep them perma-frozen and just raining headshots into their face. After you have 3 fundamental pieces of this build, there are some different options you can choose to customize for yourself. The first one being 30% of magazine recovered from toxic round kills. This is going to be especially helpful for your light machine gun and your double guns. It's going to give you back 30% of ammunition into your magazine from toxic kills. Very helpful, because reloading those types of guns sucks ass. Another option you have is going to be offering some sustain. When toxic magazine ends, 40% of damage done on kills is going to translate into healing yourself and allies. While this sounds really good in practice, it's not as tight as you might think, because you're actually having to wait until you are finished with the blighted round skill before you can get the heals. So if you got an LMG, you're going to be holding on to that clip for quite some time before the heals kick in. It's important to note that with the activation of the blighted round skill, as long as you have 1 round of ammunition in your magazine, you will get a free instant reload when it puts in the toxic rounds. You cannot use this ability to reload cancel. If you are currently empty and you are in the process of reloading, you will not force rounds into your gun. You have to have some ammo in there in order for this to work. For strengths and weaknesses of this build, I think that it's incredibly important to put a class skill point into reducing the cooldown of your toxic abilities, aka blighted rounds, by 15%. This will bring your cooldown for blighted rounds down to 49 seconds. Yeah, it's a very long time. There is gear out there to reduce the cooldowns on your cryo turret and your rocket launcher, the pain launcher. I do not use it, so my cooldowns for the cryo turret 24 seconds. Cooldown for the pain launcher is 40 seconds. So that is a major negative of this class. Your cooldowns are the longest in the game, bar none. That's it for the negatives, though. That's actually a Pretty fucking short list, so that's a good thing, I think. Strengths of the Cryotoxic Techno are you are the Captain Slayer. I know my damage is artificially buffed by my legendary snipers, but even with the blue sniper rifle with plus crit damage and plus crit damage on your toxic rounds, you melt captains with a vengeance. It's also insanely powerful for ads for 2 reasons. Number 1, your toxic rounds don't actually have to hit the target to inflict toxic. If you hit a target and he is close to his friends, the toxic will in fact spread out around them and spread their chip damage along to all the homies that are nice and close to each other. Also, because of your cryo turret and your pain launcher cryo, you have great crowd control, inflicting freeze on numerous targets when your abilities are ready to go. You have great chip damage, you have great crowd control with your frost, you have great damage on captains with your bonus criticals, you also have the ability to perma-freeze captains with all of your different sources of cryo. What else could be cool about this character? Oh, that's right. On top of all that, you get the bonus swag of glowing green guns every time you kick in your toxic rounds. I'm not over it yet, and again, I hate to beat a dead horse, but I have legendaries and they look even cooler with the blinded rounds. Let's go. The Technomancer, in my opinion, is the second most brain dead class, the Devastator being the first. The Technomancer has just so many things working for it, so much utility, so many ways to not die, so many ways to pump out raw damage. You cannot really go wrong speccing this character out. This video is winding down to a conclusion. I wonder just how many subs I'm going to lose over my double legendary luck, but it was all worth it. If you enjoyed anything in this video, feel free, drop a sub. I would really appreciate it. Creeping up on 100. I know, it's getting pretty real, huh? Thanks so much for tuning in. We out.